Call the meeting to order.
Cool. I'm going to recall order.
We were last discussing an open item, so we didn't approve any of the 3 items that we needed to approve. So are we just opening the floor for discussion first?
Well, presentation.
I think, Casey, do you have something to present?
Yeah, so we went, today Don and I went through and made some adjustments to the budget again. At Lisa's request to see what $6 an hour per employee would look like. So that our minimum wage would be $18.75, I believe.
Well, actually, the request was from what was proposed. So it would have been,
Would have been
It would have-
1875. What was proposed was $6 from 1350.
50.
Maybe I did my math wrong. I can't really tell you.
That'd be 1950 an hour. 1350 and 6 is 1950 an hour. But nonetheless, it's
Yeah.
basically the idea was a proposal of $6 an hour or $12,480 per person in a full-time position. For every position, we have the same amount.
What we did is we went back and gave you 3 budgets: the proposed budget, the approved budget, budget 1, as I understood what you wanted, and then come to find out that wasn't enough. So we went back and did supposedly the $6. I may have been off. I got to be honest, I'm not thinking clear. I'm kind of under some stuff and my head's not right. So I'll just be honest with you. I'm trying to keep things straight. And working with the spreadsheet in particular, if you've ever worked with those, you need to be as sharp as you can. Otherwise, you can make a lot of mistakes. And we went through it trying to get everything done. So the bottom line, I think the question is, what will the starting wage be? The proposed budget, the starting wage is minimum wage, which is the 13.75.
13.50.
Right. If you come into this district and you're in the step 1, which very few people are, but they are. If you're in step 1, then 13.75. In the second proposed budget, it will jump up to $6.40, $16 and something cents, if I remember correctly. Yeah. It would have been $16. Give me that. Yeah, just hand me that stuff and let me go through it. Yeah, it was 1641, which is currently step 5 in our deals. If I could go back and redo it after thinking about it, I would put 1641 as step 1. But just not thinking smart. Now, what I did do is when you guys, or when Lisa sent the deal back, I went back and I said 1875 was step 1. So I did that and then calculated it out so that the salaries were proportionate. I don't think most people understand we have a current employee position and pay plan that we've operated on since the 80s. And then we have a step and grade increase that we've operated off of forever. And that step and grade is 5%. That's it. But we don't always give an automatic 5% increase. The supervisors and the people that evaluate have options to give less. If they give more than that, they have to give permission. I have never had, but maybe occasionally once every 2 or 3 years, someone come in and request more than that. And we discuss it, make a decision, and then we do what's appropriate. The same thing with occasionally over the years, I've given out occasionally step increases where I notified the supervisors and I said, I think this person's gone up and beyond. I think they should get an increase, so we give that. But at no time have we ever gone out of the budget. The money has been there. And we've got, by law, we're not allowed to spend more than what we budget by law. So what I try to do is encourage the staff to make sure that they budget more, like with the part-time help. They actually budget more than they're probably going to use. But if they don't budget, they can't use it. Then they have to go back and make adjustments based on that. Then at the end of the year, what we do is we look at the budget and we say, is it evening up? In other words, is our revenue sources declining to a point to where we can't meet that? Probably 2 or 3 years ago, the board met and we discussed the, I hope I'm not rambling, but we discussed that we wanted to make sure that we took the debt service out of the general fund. The reason that was done is we always suspected the debt service out of the general fund would be shifted to the SDCs. That's legal, because the debt service can be and should be out of the SDCs anyway. But our SDCs were so low. When we did SDCs, we did 3 proposals on SDCs just as we're doing tonight. We did a basic plan, we did a middle plan, and we did the upper plan. We said this is what we can do in each one of these plans, projects, and the minimum plan was to get by from year to year, make sure we covered our debt, and we'd have a little bit left over by which to do community projects. So far, that has worked out fine. As a matter of fact, we may have been a little better off because the city has gotten into a growth spurt and we've gotten a few more SDCs, but next year it could be the opposite. With that, it's not stable funding. That's why originally I never put the debt service in the SDCs because I didn't feel that it was stable. When you borrow money, you got to pay it back. And to pay it back, we wanted to make sure that there was sufficient funds in the general fund. My thought at the time was we have the sufficient funds. Later on in the general fund, when we build all these trails, we'll have to add additional staff, which we have over the years and will continue to add because those trails have to be maintained and there's no income off of those. Now, we're looking at building the the campground, there'll be income off of that. The campground will pay for itself. So we have the special service section. So we broke the budget down into basic service and special service. Basic service was going to be the maintenance, the upkeep, repair and replacement, and then special services was going to subsidize that repair and replacement to some point, depending on how much repair replacement they needed. So we looked at that and we set up a system. Over the years, it's worked out fine. We haven't gotten into any hassles. We've done extremely well. When the COVID hit, we didn't have to lay anybody off. We were able to keep everybody on staff. We were able to go through it. But because of our system, the way we had done it, when our income went down, so did our expenditures. So it all worked out extremely well, especially in special services. Now, in basic services, what I don't understand is why, and I've said this, why, when taxes can only go up 3% by law. I'm talking about by law. Yet we negotiate and they do a 5% step increase, which we do. How does that make sense? 5% doesn't always equate. So you're doomed at some point to not be sustainable. And I've always tried to work out. Back in the 80s, I did it to the year 2026, I think it was, 2026, because I figured I'd be gone, which will be close to it. But I did that, and it's worked out well over the years, and we've been able to do that. With the 3 proposals before you, the first, or the proposed, I know is sustainable. I have no question about it. It's more than sustainable.
And that's the original one that we have.
Right,
in the
yeah.
note.
The second one, I have not totally, because the situation, been able to totally form it out. I believe that it's probably sustainable. Again, I'm giving you an opinion, not a fact. I think it's sustainable.
Describe that one. Is that the $3?
That's the $16. The 18 or the $19 or whatever. I don't believe long-term that would be sustainable. I think we'd wind up like a lot of other agencies. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but I haven't done it. My opinion is we'd be okay for, the next 5 or 8 years. But what about after 5 or 8 years? People don't look that long. And
Chair, can I ask a question? So one of the things that we talked about is we need staff in here to teach lessons. We make money off of the lessons.
correct.
And that's what we need to be focused on, not so much the taxes. It's, we have to provide services in order to make the revenue. And so we can make the revenue to pay for the staff if we have the staff to make the revenue.
You're exactly correct.
So we gotta consider, we gotta recruit, we gotta keep staff, and that's where our focus is, that's where this conversation is. And so we're not really gambling, we're ensuring that we're gonna have staff here because we can pay them, and then we can provide the services that we're known for, that we wanna provide to our community, that they want. Those new buildings coming in, all those new homes that are coming in, are being filled with families and they're gonna participate. So that's the revenue that we're trying to drum up here. And so I get the whole curve of 3% that costs you, when I deal with that every day. But we have the opportunity to make money outside of that 3%, and that's what we're focused on.
That's
So-
correct.
So what I'm curious about is this packet here, is this a revised version of which was on our tables today?
So I think there's a bit of a, I don't think that what I had proposed on the $6 is, it wasn't to take the minimum wage and increase it by $6. It was to take every single position and give $6 an hour more. So when I'm looking at the revised budget here, some of the higher page, I'm guessing you put it in as the minimum wage, and then that's pushing the higher income ones up more than the $6 an hour is the equivalent of $12,480 a year. And the idea or the proposal was to do that $12,480 for every single, well, it adjusts for part-time, but the equivalent for a part-time, but for every employee in the district. So there is, it isn't going to, for example, in the assistant superintendent line item here, it would only have been $12,480 more than the $87,000. It would not, or the $93,000. It would not have been up to 138. So I think by putting the $6 in the minimum wage, it really threw off all of these top numbers, because there's got to be some calculation. I don't know how we could have gotten the numbers that were on here. My proposal is just at $6 an hour, you're getting your lowest paid people up to a place where they can afford to stay here. It also allows for your staff to hire people at a wage that they'll accept rather than going over to McDonald's or somebody else, right? And then it was also to say, it's not just the lowest wage people, everybody here has worked incredibly hard and probably way more hours than they normally would because you're short-staffed. And so giving that $12,480 across the board was just to give everybody something, and it hopefully wouldn't have thrown your budget too far out of whack. It was, but I don't think that that's what, I wouldn't want to approve what's here, because that's not what I proposed, and I think that that ends up getting to be a place where it's less sustainable for you in the long term.
Mike?
I would hope that this group would really not be looking at it seriously at giving a $6 increase across the board for everybody. That's not sustainable. And for us to micromanage, we need to let Dawn and the staff sit down. I do agree that in this unique time that we're in, not normal, but still a unique time, that you do have to raise up some salaries or some wages here in order to pick up some people. But I think that should be left up to Dawn and the heads of the departments to talk it over and go, okay, what are we seeing? So let's raise it a couple dollars or maybe $3. But I certainly hope that we don't go any higher than that, and you leave it up to Dawn and the staff to do their job. We shouldn't be micromanaging, because you're going to set yourself up in a situation where it could be very, very difficult to maintain. You have to keep maintaining that on down the road. And the way our nation is throwing out money like it's candy, and we're increasing our debt, anybody that knows anything about economics, what does that do? It causes recession, because you're going to have to start paying that stuff back sooner or later. That's what recessions happen. If recessions happen, then you're going to go ahead and lay all these people off anyways. So I say, let's increase it a little bit, but leave it up to Dawn and the staff to figure that out. Just don't micromanage. For God's sake, don't go $6 across for everybody.
So Mike, what is the increase a little bit?
I'm saying leave it up to Dawn, you know?
If I had to make a recommendation on the three budgets, listening to everyone, and also listening to the staff come into my office, I won't say their names, but I would go, I think the middle one would work, would be able to go with it and be able to do the job and give some flexibility with that. An example, if we start out at that amount, $16 and something, for instance, let's take the pool lifeguards. Once they get a WSI, they can jump up to $19 in a heartbeat. As a matter of fact, if you approve the middle budget, they'll already be there. Those that are WSI that make that an hour, they'll be at 19 something. So,
Recognize Lisa.
Over the past, I'd say 7 to 10 years, employees have lost buying power that's been significant. Cost of housing has gone up. It's silly money how much housing costs these days. So the amount that people have left over to spend just on food, clothing, medicine, whatever the kids' needs are, is gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And I believe that's probably why every time Julie tries to offer somebody a position, they say no, because they can't afford to come here. Not that they don't want to come here. I would bet they would want to come here because it's perks and rent, right? But they can't afford to. So you can go ahead and leave it as little as you possibly want to, and you won't have people here. And then what do you have? You're not going to be able to do the lessons that are here. You're not going to have people to maintain the parks. You're not going to have people to do the work. Your biggest expenditure is your staff.
before this, Lisa, before this occurred, we have people teaching classes that make 20, 19, 20-something bucks an hour. Already, way before this deal ever happened. How did that occur?
I don't know, Don, I'm just telling you what we're seeing now. Your staff has said at every single board meeting that you're understaffed in every department and that you're not having a very good success rate of pulling more people in. It's not because of you all, it's because of the amount of money they're being offered. And this is the only, I appreciate what you're saying, Mike, but this is the only opportunity that we have to influence it. And as Dawn just said, if there's no budget, you cannot do it.
Well,
Right.
yes, we'll budget for it though. I'm sorry, were you finished?
Well, no, because I do
Go
think
ahead.
that when you're only paying these wages, you're talking about a lifeguard or somebody here or somebody there. I'm just saying, you gave us a budget that showed that the bottom three of your full-time positions here in the budget that you had presented originally was $29,800 or something like that. It was the equivalent of $14 an hour. And if you take the average housing cost of an apartment here that's gonna be $1,500, you have $11,000 for the rest of the year pre-tax, right? So this is before you're even taxed on that money. So you're gonna have something like $6,000 to survive. You can't do it. So the $6 just came from that particular notice there, because if you're not paying $20 an hour, people will go to Panda Express and McDonald's. It's easier. They get more money. Why not?
Well, I think they're still having problems. I don't know why it is that people don't want to work. You know, that we had,
Free money that's coming out.
I know, I was gonna say that, you're
'Cause I work for
you're
a
exactly
family,
right.
we pay rent for
So
it.
what happened before Biden came in, there was the lowest unemployment. And I'll just leave it at that. Everybody was working that could work. Now they're not for some reason. And they've gotten a lot of free money. And unfortunately, even the ones that are offering a lot more money are still having troubles finding somebody. So again, I go back to the point, let Dawn and the staff, We can pass a budget, maybe we go with the $3 an hour, and you pass that budget, and let Don and the staff look, hey, well, we're gonna offer at this, just like what Jim probably used to do. We'll offer at this amount, and well, we can't get them, okay, then we'll offer at this amount, but you stay
We never
within
get
a
to that
range.
second amount.
What's that?
We never get to that second amount.
Okay, well then at some
Reality.
point in time, you just, but again, we don't deal with that stuff. Don and the head departments do. Let them make that decision. But let's give something there so that you got a budget for it. They can't just go over that.
Chair recognizes Don Loving and then Jim,
And then
and then Elizabeth.
So I generally agree with Lisa in spirit. I'm not sure that across the board is the way to go. I was honestly going to say something along the lines of what Elizabeth said the other night, right before she said it, about creating a pool of money that's extra for the supervisors to figure out, how to spend, because, we probably don't need to pay the kid who's running the scoreboard for men's City League basketball another $6 an hour to find a kid to do that. We may need to increase the rate for the lifeguard $10 an hour so we can get enough lifeguards to get rid of the backlog at the pool. And so, it is the supervisors that need the discretion there. So I would be in favor of approving a lump sum of money and let the supervisors decide how to divvy it up. But that's even more difficult to plan, I realize. But that's my thought.
Jim?
Yeah, with regard to the minimum wage, I think the new proposal, and I don't have the wage scales in front of me for salary level 5, started at $16.50, but it extended up higher. And my assumption is that if with that new offering, some people in their starting positions would be offered $16.50 an hour. Other people, because of the nature of their job, might be offered more to begin with. And we'll just pick the example of Julie and swim teachers, and that may be a bad example, but these were not meant to be full-time livable wage jobs. They're part-time jobs by students that come and go. So they're not expected to have to rent an apartment all on their own, because in many cases these are kids or teenagers or college students that are sharing places, just as probably all of we did when we were first starting out. So if they found that their $16.50 an hour wage offerings were failing, well, they'd have to live with the consequences of that long enough to realize, crap, we're not getting any hires, but they have it in the scale to increase that if they need to. They can make the call and say $16.50 is not working, I think we need to go to 18. But at least then they have a choice. They can exercise decision based on experience rather than just saying right off the get-go, everybody gets 18 bucks an hour. So they get to exercise judgment, and I encourage us to allow them to exercise that judgment. Along with not being full-time livable wage jobs or an expectation of that, the other thing is not everybody wants to work making pizza on a production line. They don't want to work nights. They don't want to make pizza. They don't want to work at Panda Express. They want to work more regular hours during the day. They want to be in the swim pool because that's what they enjoy. They want to be on the soccer field because that's what they enjoy. They want that type of employment. They don't want to work Friday night at the pizza parlor with no predictable hours whatsoever. So there are a lot of benefits and positives to working for CPRD in one of those other more entry-level positions that a young person would likely take. So we shouldn't just think of this as simply a salary issue. However, I will say that it almost doesn't matter who you are. If your choice is between swimming for $13.50 an hour and making pizza for $18.50 an hour, well, most people are going to figure out a way to make pizza. But still, I think budget one, and I'm going to call it budget one, which in that proposal is actually is described as budget one. It provides a substantial increase in, we'll call it salary availability, from which the management staff would have the flexibility to do a lot. And I went through and I looked at all of the proposed increases, and what I saw was that some people were getting a 10% increase, other people were getting a 21% increase. 10.2 seemed to be popular amongst the salaried employees. However, I saw two lucky people that were scheduled for 21 and a couple of people that were scheduled for 15. But I also went and looked at like the lower level folks, and I'll give you an example. The senior center person, they were getting a much bigger bump. They were getting more like the $6 an hour that we all think the lower level people will really benefit from. And in their case, that's more of a full-time job. So when I went through all these budgets and looked at all those numbers, I thought actually budget number one played pretty well. Budget number two, I frankly thought that there was a spreadsheet error someplace in there and that the whole thing is hosed up and we can't make any decision based on budget two, because as an example, and I'll just pick the one example, and if you want me to do this? Sure. Okay. Where is that sheet? There's a schedule of, it's page 97 of this latest 4-page thing that shows budget 1, 2, and 3. The original 1 and 2. And if you look at page 97 and you go down, and you count down 9 people, and you go superintendent, assistant superintendent, and you go down to recreation coordinator 2. So I just like to pick someplace and just say, does this seem right? Well, it shows that the present salary is around $51,000. And if we go over to the last, and I'm looking at budget 2, the last column, it shows the new salary for that person at $77,000. Well, that's a 50% increase coming off of a $50,000 budget. I'd say there's a spreadsheet error here. And so, whereas I found budget number one to look pretty sensible and it all kind of hung together pretty well, budget number two, I think people were under too tight a schedule. They're in too big a hurry, running out of time. I've done this myself 1,000 times. I did something wrong in the spreadsheet, and because this doesn't make sense. That's $77,000 is a 50% increase, and it's certainly not a $12,000 increase, which would be a $6 an hour across the thing on a board offset. I didn't say that very well, but I hope it all kind of makes sense. So anyway, I think budget number two as it stands doesn't represent the idea that it's supposed to represent, and I think it's supposed to. In my personal opinion, is that budget number one works fairly well and gives management a fair chance to adjust budgets as needed. I'll stop talking now.
Recognize Elizabeth.
So I thank you. So I agree with Mike that we shouldn't be micromanaging, and the salary sheets, even though you may have some challenges with some of those, I don't think this is the level that we really are involved in. But we do give that to Dawn and management to discern where the dollars go. So in conjunction with Dawn Loving, that I agree that we provide additional dollars and let management put them where they need appropriate. Because I like your example, Dawn, is it the lifeguard versus the reader board, who gets the bigger? And I think those decisions really come at a management level, not at a board level. And I'm still not seeing the revenue, because if we increase the budget, say by just a $1.3 million or $1.2 million, I see that the revenue was increased on, it's not a page number, but it's on this packet, approved budget 22-23 by just $716,000 on the beginning balance. And I'm pretty sure, because based on your February finance report, that you're going to have more than $716,000 as a carryover with your beginning balance, right? Because you're not spending faster than your revenues coming in. So I am disappointed that I'm still not seeing our revenues to date and a real projection of a carry of a beginning balance for next year. And that's where I think that we can have the information and make a wise decision to provide more funding if we can see how the beginning balance is coming in. So that would be my 642 is that we empower the management people to make those detailed decisions. We provide the opportunity for the staff to be paid more by a budget appropriation amount.
Can I amend that to say yes, as long as the full-time people are getting a minimum, that are here for a full-time minimum of $20 an hour, which is a livable wage, because, like I say, those are full-time people, right? They're not the ones that are lifeguards or watching the board or whatever. These are people that are working for the district full-time. This is their job. And like I say, what was proposed originally gives them no space to live. And I'm still incredibly concerned about how that we leave a sufficient amount of money that allows for the managers or the supervisors to go ahead and offer and have space to offer people what they need to offer them in order to have them come in. At whatever level that is, because otherwise, if we don't, they're hamstrung in a different way.
I think that can come at a board, but this budget committee, we need to stay up a little higher and leave that to management to do in the direction of the board, but we need to provide the opportunity.
Recognize Jim.
Yeah, just, unless things have changed, and I've been out of the picture for 3 years, for your part-time people, for them to basically increase to the next step in most cases, they need to be able to put in 450 hours of work time. Is that still to be able to get to 450 hours for a lot of these folks that work maybe 6 hours a week, 8 hours a week to fill those positions, how long? It takes so long to get there. Inflation doesn't take that long right now, but it takes them so long to get up another step. So when we look at a wage, we can do that. But you also have to look how long it will take these folks to teach 3, 4, 5 hours a day to be able to get to that next step. Some of them, it takes years. So I just want the budget committee to be aware with the part-time staff, it's not like every year they get a review and they go up. That's not the case. They have to meet those 450 hours and then go there. So I think that, the wages, and like I said before, Mike, you weren't here, is that if I'm a George Fox student, I would rather a lot of them stay here and live here and just be here for the summer, but they can't afford to do that. So we lose those older people. We bring in people that don't have any training, and we ask them to teach or to guard or whatever, and then we don't get the quality, and then we could have accidents or poor teaching or feedback. So you need to look at a bigger picture than just a number, I think. You need to look at how the personnel do have their wages increased. People need to understand that. On the part-time end. On the full-time end, that's that basically you've seen it already, how they're increased. So it's the part-time end that worries me a lot of times than the full-time end. And I mentioned that we lost when I was working, we lost 2 full-time employees to the school district, another one to the hospital, because they paid more. And the school district apologized for taking our employees. We couldn't compete. So we had to retrain, spend that money, to do that. That's why we need to stay even with the Joneses and not get behind the Joneses. And that's just history. Now, that may have changed in the last 2 or 3 years. But that's what happened.
Jim.
Yeah, I understand that. One thing I wanted to point out, just one final thing, it's Oregon state law, it's in our budget package. And it says, the budget committee does not approve new personnel, employee contracts, or salary schedules. You can make dollar adjustments to a proposed budget, but we cannot dictate salary schedules. So I would say that we can certainly give the chief operating officer more money, but we can't tell him what his salary schedule can be. We can't tell him, you must set the minimum salary here. We can't do that. At least that's my reading.
Has more.
Yeah.
This is a budget committee.
That's right.
Let's stay up here.
Yeah.
Have dinner.
You got
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
If I could make a recommendation, I'd just say go with the budget one, the middle one, as far as the amount goes. Then what I would do is get with the staff after we do that and go through the deal and see what we come up with. And then what I'll do is whatever we come up with, I'll mail that back out to you.
I would rather you have more space to actually adjust midterm to be able to hire the people you need than to not give you enough money right now in your budget. This is the only opportunity in your budget that we have for you to use it for salaries. If you
Oh, no.
don't, you're gonna be limited, right?
Oh, no.
Can I say, every staff member that's in the supervisory position submitted the budget. They submitted the budget, and I took that budget and put it together. Not one time, only one instance where a person wanted to put in a new position, and I said, I don't think that's smart right now, but I understand you have a time crunch. Therefore, what we'll do is we'll increase the part-time help and give you some ability, and we'll evaluate that over this next year. Other than that, everything they submitted was approved in the original proposed budget.
I'm not trying to be rude here, but do you think any of your people would ever suggest a $6 an hour raise for their people? They'd never do that. They're gonna go within whatever the historical piece has been, which is your 3 to 5%, because otherwise they're gonna be sitting for a week trying to explain to you why it should be that way. I'm just saying, where we live right now, in this economy, for whatever reason, for why we're here, we are here. And you don't have people, and you need people. And I wanna make sure that we have enough money in this budget that allows for you to get those people and to maintain or retain the ones you have, so that they're not offered, if you're paying them $55,000 and somebody comes in and says, I'll pay you 75. That you have space that you can go ahead and maybe say, I can put you up to 62, and that they'd wanna stay for that. But if you don't have the money, you don't have that ability to negotiate in any way. And then you're stuck. And then when we don't have people, we don't have a district.
So I hear that we are coming together, because I hear that we have a budget one, which increased the dollars. And I wanted to, I don't know if I heard it correctly, but what you can do is when we get a real fund balance, when you close the year, so you already have 719,000 to work in your personnel, if we go with budget one, right? That's the additional revenue that you're bringing in. And then when you close the fiscal year, you'll find out what your real beginning balance is. And you as a board, as long as it doesn't exceed, I think, like 10%, you don't need us again. You guys can say, well, now that the revised, give him some time, because he can't do it today. Look at the salary schedule, look at every position, and he can reevaluate those scales with you guys. And if you need, you can move more beginning balance into operations through the fiscal year and add more dollars as needed to get through the calendar or the fiscal year. So we do have, this isn't the only opportunity to provide funding. There's opportunity, the budget's just a one-time, we approve at this level, but it's a living, eating, moving document, throughout the entire fiscal year. So you have many opportunities to revisit, do we have enough dollars available? But the big thing is, where are you gonna end at the fiscal year, revenue minus expenditures, how much are you gonna start with? So until you have that number, you may not want to really pad the expenditures going into the budget year. And you can take this in baby steps, and you guys as a board have more control of the details, operations with your manager than us. We really need to give direction, and does it pass the sniff test for how many dollars you're spending? Are we collecting the right taxes, in our community? And We need to stay up here. So I appreciate your conversation, but this should have happened 6 months ago, coming into this, in the presentation. And so I think we need to elevate our role as a budget committee.
The other thing that just occurred to me, what we don't know about next year, that there is this unknown of what revenue we're going to realize next year. Next year, certainly most economists are agreeing that we're looking like stagflation, inflation. So there's a lot of financial unknowns about next year. And let's just, I know this is sort of theoretical, but if we have a big stagflation or inflation event in this coming year, people are going to stop some of their discretionary spending, which is going to include things like maybe swim lessons or child youth sports. Those are the areas where they might start cutting back. So, I'm playing golf. Never.
No, they'll never stop playing golf.
But there is that potential. It just occurred to me that if next year turned out to be sort of a down year for the U.S. economy, we might find our local economy kind of goes that way too, and that less people in youth sports, less people in swim lessons, and those sorts of things. And that's just an unknown. And the last 2 years have been the weirdest years of my life, and next year is kind of looking kind of potentially strange also.
And inflation's not going anywhere for a while.
If I can bring up 2 points, fees that we generate. And I'll just round it off. In 15-16, we had 2.7. We went down to 2.6. Then we kept it at 2.6 in 17-18. We went up to 3 in 18-19. We went down in 19-20 to 2.5. We are projected, or we actually did 2021, we went up to 2.8. We were budgeted for 3.4 and 3.6, which we won't raise. As far as the ending balance, the beginning balance was 704,000 in 15-16. We went up to 1.1 million. Then we went up to 1.1. We would then next year went up to 1.9. We went up to 2 million in 19-20. And then last year it was 3.4 million, which is huge. But you got to remember, we didn't, because of the way the system, we didn't lose the basic service, but we lost a lot of the expenditures. But again, the beginning balance, I've always projected it, and I've said this routinely, at 1 million. That's what I've just done periodically, 1 million. I would suspect that we'll be over that. That's the leeway. But those are 2 things that you've talked about. So financially, we're in pretty fair shape. But, here's the but. We have 2 major projects. One is with the school district. We've got the outdoor field that the school district's putting in $750,000. The board has committed to $750,000. It may go over that, but if it does, we'll be okay. And that particular one is under SDCs. And we also have the first phase of the bridge project that was 2.6.
2.6, and we're responsible for 767.
Right, 2.6. So we will spend that in the next 2 years. So having that flexibility for me, I'm talking about, and for you as a board and a budget committee, we're not going in the hole. We're going to be able to come out of this okay. Hopefully by then we'll be able to make some adjustments. We'll have some additional revenue come in, and we've We've applied for grants all over the place, and we'll have other projects come down. So, but anyway, that's just for info.
Thank you. Kat, what is this representing, the one that we got on our tables today?
So you have,
Is this
the
budget one?
updated, so you have three altogether, so you already had the original. So what you have tonight are the budget one and then the budget two. So the larger one is the budget two, and then the 5-page one is budget one.
So of these sheets, these represent the total budgets? Does this represent with the budget one? Because we have the original budget, then we have budget one and budget two, right?
Yeah.
Is this the handout that they got?
This is budget one.
Yeah,
Just pick one first.
You pick one.
This is budget one.
yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve budget one and allow the management to work with the board on how the additional funding for personnel be
Dinner's burning, right?
distributed.
That would be the 13,586,528.
Correct.
Okay.
$13,586,528.
Recognize Jim for a question.
Question.
No, we can't
How's that
have
so?
a question before
It
there's
has
a
to be a
second.
second, and then
Okay.
we have a question.
Second.
So,
Mike, second.
okay, now we can have discussion.
So my question is, Don, what's that gonna bring our part-time personnel in as far as brand new employee wage? That's part-time. What's that wage gonna be?
Step one would be
41.
1641. That'd be the lowest. That'd be step one.
Because most of those are brought in anyway at step one. The largest percentage of our folks are brought in.
99%.
99% are gonna be brought in at 1641. Just want everybody to know that, because that's where a lot of them.
But
I'm not complaining, I just want everybody to know that.
So my motion said that there's the dollars that increase this, allow them to modify any of the scales. Is what it is.
So July 1, if we so see fit and we do our due diligence and do the staff reviews and have that to dawn by July 1, any staff that's at step 1A will be at 1647.
I get that. But what I'm also saying is that you've always had the ability to move up or down.
Not like
we
this.
may not by law pay less than $13.75 an hour.
I get that.
Will we have any employees working for that? I don't think so, but it's possible.
So 1641 is not what everyone's gonna be getting at a part-time salary that are beginning employees. Or that are current employees.
Right. When the staff fills out the forms, Jim, you've done it,
I know, but I
okay?
also know how it goes too. So it's not always that easy to get those things done. So you've had the ability to change people's salaries forever, really, if
Correct.
you wanted to. I'm just concerned that 1641 for those new people isn't gonna occur, and they're gonna be at 13, or they're gonna be remain there. I'd like to see, to make sure that personally, those people are up there, so we can compete with Burger King and McDonald's and everybody else that's taking all that people.
I think that's Lisa's point.
And that's at a board level, not this. That has nothing to do with
I just
this.
wanna make sure the money's there to do that.
That's what we're
Okay.
doing. We're approving this, and then we also have, after the beginning of the year, if you need the additional money, maybe to get us the 1.3 that we talked about. But we're not in the details. We're up here giving authorization to spend appropriations for the fiscal year.
Lisa?
So I'd also like to say that in 2021, the actual beginning balance went up to 4.6 million. And now, given our financials, we're already at 6.6 million. And so, and we have 4 more months to go of counting our revenue and our expenses. Now, the expenses might come in higher, there might be some big ones that aren't here right now, but in the general fund, as of February 28th, there was $10,476,000 in revenue, and there was $4,586 in expenses. So, or $3,862,000. So there's $6.6 million on February 2nd in the beginning, so if you carried it over the beginning balance. We're continuing to bring this up. I don't want to go with the budget that you recommended because I think it has too many implications for, is it this or this? And these are wrong.
We're not using those. We're
Well,
not approving them.
Okay,
As
so
a
you
point
said
of order,
budget,
we have to, the motion's on the table. to
right, and we're
approve
talking,
this.
but we get to talk about it, right?
The motion.
Yes. So I'm requesting maybe that we amend the motion so that rather than the 716,000, that we go up to $1 million more. Instead of 1.7 million, that we go up to $2 million in a beginning balance that allows for a little bit more space to do that hiring and adjusting that is required.
So you have to increase the expenditures as well, not just the beginning balance.
It would be the salaries. It's so that they can actually pay people.
So can you clarify that again?
So
to
for
your-
example,
say what you're recommending as an amendment to the
As-
motion.
when you mentioned budget 1, which has the $13 million, right, I would add 284 or 85, whatever dollars to make that. That there's
Round it up to $1 million.
round it up to, instead of 1.7 million, round it up to 2.
I request clarification on this. Can you state it outright as you would like it recorded in the records?
I need a copy of this.
Well, it's gonna make it hard to approve this tonight, though, so I understand.
They need a
Yeah.
copy of this.
Everything that you have here is because they have it too. So right now I have the motion from Elizabeth as to approve budget 1 and allow staff to modify salary schedules. Is that reflected? Would you like any of it?
I have, yes, my motion is to approve budget 1 as presented.
And that's been seconded.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, as a point of order, so Robert's rules of order, if Lisa wishes to amend the motion, then first off, both the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion have to approve that amendment. And then we would vote on the amendment, and if that passed, we could vote on the amended motion. Now, I'm being Mr. Rules,
No, I
Robert's
appreciate
rules of order sticking in it, but that's how it's supposed to work if we want to do this by the book of law. So the first question would be whether or not Ms. Comfort is willing to have her amendment, her motion amended, as Lisa suggested. If she is, then Mike has to be willing to have his second amended. If Mike's not, somebody else can still second the amended motion if Elizabeth agrees.
Well, it would have been helpful if Donna just made round numbers and not,
For a simple matter.
$377.
It's just the way it came out, and I'm sorry.
I would like to
I would have done it that way if I'd had time.
Recognize Bart.
Thank you. I just want to say I wouldn't want to vote in support of the original motion because I don't think it's enough. So whether we have to vote on that and then decide, or whether we amend the motion, I would not be in support of the original amount.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree with her amendment.
So what I'm hearing is we want to amend the motion to increase the 1.716 by 190, or two, what's the exact number?
What-
Or
What
maybe
you
just
would
take the new
do-
amount and don't make us do the math.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think of,
It's $283,623.
okay, but let's do a round number, because then we can add the round number to everything else. So,
make sure it's clear for Cat too.
Yes,
so
300,000.
300,000, increase the beginning balance by 300,000 and increase personnel on the appropriation sheet by 300,000, which would then increase the grand total of all funds by 300,000, which would be a total of $13,586,828. Do I have a second on that motion?
So what exactly is that going to do as far as, is that,
It's going to increase the personnel line and
Okay.
the management.
so
of-
basically it's giving Dawn
Yes.
$1 million
finances
more.
to decide, it's not automatic across the board, $6 for everybody.
No, because we can't do that. We can only
Okay.
increase the
Then
appropriation
I'll-
for personnel.
I'll second that.
Now, Mr. Chair,
I call for the
there can
vote.
be further discussion, and always with this call to the vote. You can't vote on that, or you just vote and see what the vote is on the amended motion. On the amendment, we actually technically have to vote on the amendment and then vote on the amended motion.
So the vote is for the amended motion from the
To
original.
amend the motion, right? The original motion.
As Elizabeth stated.
So we'll have an initial vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So now.
Can you read that back so we know that it's official on your cat machine there?
Yeah.
So I have, the amendment will increase the beginning balance of 1.716 by 300,000 and increase personnel appropriation by 300,000, which round the beginning balance up to 2 million. Is that correct?
No,
Not the
2 million.
beginning, not the,
It's not gonna be exactly.
It's not. No, and then to increase grand total of all funds.
Okay, you're giving.
So just that last line, you can omit.
Okay.
Where you talk
so-
about the 2 million, there is no 2 million.
Okay,
You had it all right.
so we'll have, the motion is to increase the beginning balance by 300,000 and the personnel appropriation by 300,000, that's it?
Yes. for-
Budget two,
Of budget, well,
No, it's
budget two,
No, it's budget.
budget.
No, budget one.
Budget
I mean, budget one, correct, budget one,
Right,
sorry.
and that's why we want to say what the grand total of all funds is.
Budget one
Right.
by 300,000.
Yes, yes.
All right,
And that was, the amendment was approved, and now we have a motion
We're
for,
just sticking on that, yes. We approve the amendment now. We still have to vote on the amended motion. Okay. It's your yard. I'm just giving you advice.
we call for the vote.
Did we just do that?
No,
No.
we did not.
That's why you can never leave the board.
Yeah, exactly. You have to stay. So,
So now we're voting on the amended motion,
okay. So we're voting on the amended motion,
which will do what Elizabeth just said.
which the description we just heard. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's passed with the amendment. So that's open item B, correct? So we still have open item, do I have a motion for the approval of resolution on approving levying taxes for 2022-23?
I move,
Numbers correct now?
yeah, I,
So the taxes didn't change.
yeah, the tax.
So do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution for approving levying taxes for 22-23 in the rate of 0.9076 per thousand of assessed value for operations. And these taxes are hereby recommended and categorized for the year 22-23 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district. For excluded from limitation of a total amount of $1,335,225.
I'll second it.
Yes, ma'am.
Approved.
No, let's vote.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Here's what's done.
You don't have that much power.
But we
So-
appreciate your volunteerism here.
Yes, we're casting a vote for approval of resolution of approving levying taxes for 2022-23 as described by Elizabeth. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So passed. Approved. And finally, item C, approval of resolution on approving appropriations for 2022-23. Do we have a motion on item C?
And corrected.
As corrected.
So moved.
Second.
You have to state the amount.
That'll teach you.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, page 2, right, flip that top, yep, right there. And then just add 300,000 to that dollar.
300,000.
Isn't that excluded from limitation?
Nope, it's the next page, flip one over, it's on the back side of that page, there you go.
Page 4, right?
So I move to approve the budget for fiscal year 22-23.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, correct me, it's the 13,886,000.
Correct.
I move that we approve the budget for fiscal year 22-23 for the sum of $13,886,528.
I'll second it.
Lisa, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Item C. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
My
Have
secretary.
secretary sign all these, I think Don's in there making.
It does have one more that we approved the appropriation, so we approved the total amount, now we need to approve the appropriations, which is all these lines, personnel, material, operating, transfer, capital. And this is just a matter of housekeeping.
Okay.
So, because otherwise they would have 13 million to do whatever they wanted. This tells them the classifications that they can spend it.
Okay.
We buy lots
So
of
we need a
trucks,
motion
so-
for that then, right, correct?
So, but in doing that, then we're gonna
You have to
amend
raise the
the
personnel
services by
and
300,000.
raise the bottom.
Yeah, we did
And raise the bottom.
Yeah.
But not that
No, not
appropriation.
Oh,
So you could, yes, with the amendment to personnel services of an increase of $300,000 for a total of.
I will move that we approve resolution for approving appropriations, that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and for the purposes shown below are hereby appropriated as follows. Do I need to read every line?
No,
Okay.
Just the
With the
correction.
correction of personnel services increased by $300,000 for a grand total of $13,886,528.
I won't second.
Elizabeth, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So moved.
Don't forget to sign, so.
Yeah, I'll stick around on the secretary.
Yep,
Yeah.
sign those.
Yep. Thanks for staying later too, Elizabeth.
Yes, yes, definitely worth it.
Appreciate your experience.
I'm a pain.
That's the fun part.
Thank you for doing this, I appreciate it.
Don, feel better.